Fill in the blank. You're not getting any younger, so...
Tell the person you love them. Even if they already know.
Who do you love?
You, Jenny. And Goofy.
Hey you! Yes, you. Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. A podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives. For a good reason. To make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz. And every week, I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people, just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? It's me, your host, Jen Glantz, back with another episode of the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. I love this podcast so much because if you do it long enough, and I've been doing it for 4 years, if you do it long enough, some of the days when the episodes go live happen to fall on memorable days of your own life. Like Friday, April 1st, when I have a new episode come out in a few weeks, that's my birthday. And today, for example, is the day before my first year of marriage anniversary. And I figured, why not have a guest on today who I am married to? So that's why...
And madly in love with.
You didn't wait for the introduction. That's why I have my husband, Adam Kossoff, on the show. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Hi, Jen. My wife. My beautiful, loving, caring wife. And we are closing our first year out with a podcast.
Do you remember the first time you ever came on this podcast?
Did you actually publish that?
No.
The
first time...
That didn't go very well. It was like 5 minutes, and then we just cut it.
The first episode I ever did of this podcast, I interviewed Adam, and about 10 minutes in, I wanted to quit podcasting, quit everything, and I did not publish that episode. Okay, so do you remember the second time you were on the show?
Yes. I didn't bring any energy. I don't remember if it was published or not. Did you actually post it?
Okay, it's like a shame that you didn't listen to it, but when was it?
It feels like it was on this couch, so it must have been in the last few years.
Okay. It was the day before we secretly got married last year, and I released it as our anniversary. I released it as the news that we secretly got married last year.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, life's a blur.
Okay.
And an adventure and fun with you.
So the reason why I wanted to have Adam on today is because I wanted to talk about the first year of marriage in general, and just do a follow-up of the podcast we released last year where we shared that we were secretly getting married. So for some context for those of you that don't know Adam or you don't know me, Adam, introduce yourself. Who are you? What are you all about? What should people know about you?
I am Adam. I'm a full-time marketer, and I am married to Jen.
What's a fun fact that most people don't know about you?
I enjoy collecting NFTs.
Which is why you should stay tuned for our future episode we just recorded on what an NFT is. But, okay, what's another thing someone should know about you?
I like sports. I'm so boring. That's really what it comes down to.
The thing is, he's not boring. He's just really humble and bad at talking about himself.
Yeah.
But Adam and I met in 2016.
That's right.
On March 19th. Adam, on a dating app, invited me for coffee at a coffee shop near Union Square in Manhattan, a couple blocks away from where I lived. And we went on a first date. We got coffee. I got a chai latte. He got a...
flat white.
What was it about that first date that was memorable?
Just seeing you. I had, I don't know, just the connection that we had, the conversation that we had. And it was easy to set up a second date that we were both excited about. Like, you could tell that it was a good date.
Did you think I was awkward?
No, not at all.
Did you think I was overwhelming?
No.
Did you think this person could be the person I marry?
Yes.
You really...
Yeah, because I fall in love really fast, but I knew with you that you were very special.
He says that with every... I'm just kidding. He doesn't. But
yeah. There's nobody else.
You do fall in love very, very fast, though.
Sure. Yeah. Like, I gave my heart to you really, really quickly, but it was, like, it all worked out in the end. I got lucky.
When you met me and we started dating, and in your head you were like, oh yeah, I think I can marry this person. What did your ideal wedding to me look like?
Like having a wedding?
Yeah.
And what would it have been? Oh man, I didn't really ever dream or care of, specific things in a wedding. It wasn't anything that I actually spent a lot of time thinking about. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer to that. I think it was always whatever my wife would want. I was totally down and game for.
I think I probably thought after I met you and working so many weddings that you and I would do something different and weird and adventurous, but I didn't know how to articulate that or put that into words. But I certainly knew that after, knowing myself and knowing you, that we would do something that was a little non-traditional. I mean, did you think we'd have like a standard cookie cutter wedding?
No.
You didn't?
No.
What did you think we would have? A circus?
Jenny, was this like on the first date when I pictured
No, like as we got
bells?
to know each other.
No, I don't know. I guess I knew it wasn't going to be in like your typical wedding venue. Again, we had been to enough weddings in cookie cutter venues that it just wasn't the right feel for us. There's nothing wrong with that. But it was, just you're unique, you're different, you're special, and you run away from what everyone else does. So I knew it wasn't going to be what everyone else does.
I think you're like that too, even though you don't think of yourself like, well, do you think of yourself like that?
No.
But I think you are like that. I just think you don't.
I say yes to a lot of things.
But I think you are actually more unique and adventurous than I am. I just don't think you label yourself that way. Whereas I embrace it in everything I do. You shy away from it sometimes.
Sure.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what you want me to do.
So we get engaged in 2019. And that was special. That was wonderful. But that came with the headache of having to plan a wedding.
Yeah.
And even though I always knew I wanted to do something different, non-traditional, adventurous, when it comes down to planning it, it's really hard to stick to that plan, especially because everybody in the world has an opinion for you. So at the end of 2019, in very early 2020, we decide we're going to have a semi-traditional wedding in Florida. We booked a venue. We put money down like March 1st of 2020.
We let people help us. You had people voting on it.
Yeah,
too.
I had this whole thing where people were voting on it, but we booked a venue in Florida where it was at a gymnasium, and it was like an old school gymnasium. It was a really cool venue in Florida. We had like a guest list of 1 million people, half of which I didn't really want to invite, but I felt like I had to. And we had some surprises, some like really cool, weird, unique, funky things we were going to do. But I'll be honest with you, like when I signed the contract for the venue, Adam wasn't with me. I was with my mom. I remember they were like, oh, we only have October 17th, 2020 available. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to sign it. But something deep in my gut felt like this wedding was wrong.
You predicted the pandemic.
I didn't predict the pandemic, but I did predict like, either this is never going to happen or it doesn't feel right. And I never doubted my marriage to you, but I doubted this wedding. Like, when you sign something or you buy something.
We had such great ideas for this wedding, though.
But when you go to the store and you buy a t-shirt and you're like, you leave the store and you're like, that was an awesome purchase. I can't wait to wear the t-shirt. But on the flip side, you go to the store, you buy the t-shirt, it's non-refundable. And you're like, oh my God, you leave the store and you're like, I'm never going to wear this stupid t-shirt. That's how I felt when I signed the contract. Like I made a mistake.
I think you immediately put pressure on that one day. And I think it's a common thing for a lot of people to do. It's scary signing a contract for a big day in your life. Now you have to make everything about it extra special.
It wasn't even that. It was just that like I felt like there was just something off about this wedding and it wasn't what I wanted. And I didn't know what I wanted.
That's the thing. You didn't know what you
wanted. But even till this day, I don't know what I want. But it doesn't matter because that wasn't right. And it was going to cost us $30,000. And I just felt weird about that.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any doubts about this wedding?
I just wanted whatever you wanted. So I only doubted whenever you voiced your concerns around certain things. But I tried to make it as special as I could. And I think we had some really good ideas.
So we send out this. We booked the venue March 1st, let's say. We send out the save the dates March 8th, March 10th,
right?
March 12th, 2020.
Yeah.
They enter people's mailboxes, and a few days later, there's a news of a pandemic.
Right.
What went through your head?
This pandemic isn't going to be that serious.
Yeah, I think like, it didn't even cross my head that this wasn't going to happen. Like so much so that we went along and booked other vendors. Like I honestly remember.
Yeah, we had a DJ.
Yeah,
we had a magician. We had.
Don't say all.
Okay.
We had a lot of surprises that I don't want to say because maybe we'll use them one day. But
okay.
This isn't an air all podcast, Adam.
I just want to tell everyone.
No, they
didn't get to do it, so I want to share everything.
Okay, so I feel like even in the pandemic, we still booked vendors. We still thought this wedding was going to happen. When was it that we decided that this wedding needed to be canceled?
I don't know. June, I guess. June, July. I think we ultimately had a point where the vendors and the venue needed to know, or we were going to have to put down some serious money.
Yeah,
So
I think
that made the deadline for us.
I think it was June, and we said based on the state of the world, this wasn't going to happen, and we didn't even want to go through with it in case there was a chance it could happen, but it would still be a really bad thing to do. So we canceled it. We canceled everything. We got most of our money back, luckily, and we sent out cancellation cards. And it was a weird feeling because I felt so guilty feeling good about the cancellation, but I also felt bad because we were back to square one. And I think like...
Hey, you did not want that photographer that you booked.
If you're listening to this podcast, I absolutely wanted you as my
You just were confused. You were confused. You really didn't know what you wanted.
I didn't know what I wanted. I made a lot of bad decisions, but I think like, I was sad that we canceled it because I was like, okay, now we have no game plan and now it's also a pandemic and are we like never going to get married? But I was very happy because again, it never felt right. So we canceled it. The thing about planning a wedding is that every single person in your life is going to ask you at least 3 to 5 times a day when you're getting married, what your plans are, what you're thinking. And when you don't have anything to say back to them, you feel really crummy. So after we canceled it, because it was a pandemic, we sort of like got a little bit of a pass, but toward the fall, people were asking us, do we have plans? What are we thinking? What are we doing?
Yeah, and they wanted to know when we were going to have kids.
Of course, but we had nothing to say. So we honestly like gave up on wedding planning. We sort of shelved it for most of 2020. We got goofy and we just said like, goodbye wedding, we'll figure it out. 2021 happens, which is last year. And January.
You still didn't know what you wanted.
I still didn't know what I wanted. January happens. I still don't know what I want. February happens. And
we prepared for something special, which is what we ultimately went through with, but we needed an officiant if we were going to do, say, a pop-up wedding at some point. And March 19th was a very special day in, Jen and I having our first date. So we had my brother become an officiant.
Yeah, but you're missing this. You're skipping ahead of the story. February 2021 rolls around and we both realized like March 19th was always the date I would want to get married on because that's the date we met and I love meaning. And it was February and March 19th was rapidly approaching. And a part of me thought like, if we don't get married this March 19th, we'd have to wait another year. And I don't really know if I care about that or not, but we had a loose plan of getting married March 19th. And in February, to prepare for that, we asked Adam's brother to start the process of becoming an officiant, which is quite easy to do. So that was February. We still didn't have a plan of getting married or eloping or anything. We just knew that if we wanted to do it last minute, we could. So then the end of February arrives, and what happens?
Did we make the decision then?
No, but we decided that if we were going to do it, we would obviously have most people over Zoom. And if we were going to do it, we would do it in a meaningful location, which would be outside of the coffee shop where we met.
Yeah.
The first week of March approaches and we sort of lean into doing it. We find outfits. We go shopping for outfits. Adam gets a white tux. I get a gold tux. Goofy gets a gold tux. Yeah. We had
to match Goofy. That was it.
Yeah. We think about who we wanted to have there, which was very few friends. We invited, we thought about like,
it was a small space. You really couldn't have everybody. And then
your
family's in Florida. My family's in New Jersey. Just keep the families at home and just have some friends.
And, our first date was this coffee shop. And obviously it was a pandemic, so we couldn't get married inside the coffee shop. And they didn't necessarily say we could get married outside the coffee shop, but they were just like, okay. Like,
You would think that they would have been excited.
They
about
were not
this.
excited about this. I mean, it was like the response was as if I had asked them if I could sit outside and read the newspaper.
I bought everyone $100 worth of coffee and whatever, and I still don't think they really cared.
They didn't
Not that
care.
they needed to care about that, fine, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
Basically, they were like,
It was very New York.
you could spend 10 minutes
but don't
outside.
touch the bench.
Yeah, they were like, don't touch like the chairs or the bench, but if you wanted to like say I do outside for a few minutes, sure, but like it's not anything like technical with them. So we had that on lockdown, and it was very touch and go. Like a couple days before, we weren't sure if we were going to do it. I was so like upset that my own family couldn't be there because of the pandemic and then being in Florida. It wasn't how I envisioned getting
It
married.
was the most selfish thing that we did, though. I think a lot of weddings, a lot of times you do it for so many other people. You include so many things in your wedding just for this person and that person and everything else. And I think that makes it special for everybody. There's nothing wrong about that. We just ultimately had to pull the trigger and get it done, and did it our way. It was very selfish of us.
It was probably the most selfish thing I've ever done in my life. I think even the morning of that moment, I wanted to back out because I felt so guilty and I felt so bad, because your whole life you're told like your dream wedding is going to be this and this and this, and like
your dad's gonna walk.
Yeah, and like here I am getting married on a sidewalk alone with Adam while the people we love the most are on a Zoom call. Like,
and this stranger's taking photo of us.
oh yeah, like in the most New York way. Like strangers were like
up. They were there to take part in it.
So I almost wanted to back out. I mean, how did you feel the morning of that?
I was ready to do it. I was just ready to put it behind us. There was so much stress going into, do we do it this way? What way do we do it? Just wanted to sign the papers, say I do, get to wear a ring. And yeah, I don't.
Why were you in such a rush though? Why don't you think you could have waited another year?
Because then it would have weighed on us longer. Just wanted to rip the Band-Aid. I think we can create so many memories, and I know that we're gonna maybe talk about that, but like there's other opportunities after you get married to share your love for each other and commemorate it in many different ways. You know, it doesn't happen just that one time in your life, and I think that weddings are amazing. They're so much fun. There's so many amazing memories that you have from there that you take with you the rest of your life. But the situation that we were in during the pandemic, those kind of things like having your aunt and uncle you haven't seen for a while come together and everyone's like, family celebrating, that wasn't going to happen. So like it was going to be a watered down wedding no matter what. So it was cooler to do it our way.
Yeah, I think the craziest part of it all is that it wasn't necessarily what I ever thought I wanted, but I couldn't imagine spending another year of my life talking about getting married. It just was like the most annoying thing to talk about. And also, like, even though it's so unromantic to say this, marriage is simply at its core the art of signing a legal document. That's what marriage is. And because that is what it is at its core, it was something I knew I was ready to do with Adam. And even if that meant other people watching us sign that paper over technology versus in person, it was something I was ready to do. And I think it
has different meaning to everybody though.
But the art of getting married, marriage means a million things. But the literal art,
you want to talk about it in
the literal art of getting married is signing a document.
Yes, but it's about the meaning.
Of course, but that is what I had to tell myself to do this on March 19th, 2021. But we did it. Even after we did it, I felt guilty again because, again, it was like very selfish. But I'll tell you, like, it's been a year and we're going to talk about marriage and all that fun stuff. But it's been a year and I feel so good about my decision. I feel so right about it because even though I don't know what I want, and I still don't know what I want in terms of a wedding, I knew I wanted to get married to Adam, and I knew that March 19th I wanted as that date that I forever remembered and paused to care about. And the fact that We did that on March 19th, and we did it the best possible way we could during a pandemic. Was more than good enough for me. And I will never, ever, ever, ever regret that. And I don't regret it. But do I have guilt? Yes. And those things are two very different emotions and feelings. We have no plans for a wedding, but one of the things we've like sort of loosely decided is a cool tradition to do every year instead of a big wedding, which we'll talk about later on. But I want to talk now about the first year of marriage. I write all about that at thefirstyearofmarriage.com. It's a free newsletter. I write about the challenges, changes, and conversations that happen after you get married. And why I talk about that is because a lot of people talk about dating, how to date, how to fall in love. A lot of people talk about marriage, weddings, how to get married, how to plan a wedding, but no one actually talks about what happens when the wedding ends. And it can be scary, it can be different, it could be weird, it can be overwhelming, and that's what I talk about in this newsletter. But I have the person that chose to marry me, and I chose to marry sitting next to me, so I want to talk with you about the first year of marriage.
Who's the expert on the first year of marriage?
I don't think I am an expert. Do you think you are an expert?
No.
I think if anything...
No, I think it's just important. I think you started the newsletter because I think you wanted to try to understand it even more.
Yeah, I'm just like fascinated by the fact that nobody prepares you or tells you the truth about marriage. They just like get you to the wedding day and then they're like, okay, good luck. But the truth is like, do you think a lot of things change when you get married?
No, but I think that that's also a hard thing to try and wrap your head around and just accept.
Well, I think for some people they do change based on your relationship. I think for us, it wasn't the changes that were tough. It was a lot of other things. So How would you say the first year of marriage was?
Well, I think you have, again, an idea in your head of how it will go. And if it doesn't live up to those crazy high, perfect moments and experiences, you feel like not so good, I guess.
I mean, what did you think? So what was in your head that you think it was going to be like?
I don't know. I can't articulate it.
What do you think it was going to be like versus what it was?
Look, we had dated for 6 years before this, and we'd basically shared every bit of every day of our lives together because we had traveled well before the pandemic, lived in studios all over the place, worked from home together forever. I don't know, Jenny?
Did you think it was going to be better than it was?
You look nervous.
I just want you to say, I'm just like eager for you to say something other than I don't know. I thought it was going to be better than it was. I thought the first year of marriage wasn't great.
Why?
I just think...
I mean, and we're on the same page.
I think in our lives, it happened during an also challenging year that didn't have to do with marriage. Like, I think in our case, the challenges that we experienced were 25% marriage and just 75% life challenges. Like, I think the challenging part of marriage was...
Yeah, but the best part was that we had each other to get through that.
But I think the challenging part of marriage for me was that I took things more seriously in terms of fighting and in terms of, like, needing things to change because I was like, I want this to be forever. So if we fought about something, I fought about it as if it was, like, so much more important because now I felt responsible for our lives together. And if I was like, Adam, I need you to fix something or change something about you because it affected us in a bad way, I felt like even more angry and frustrated by it because it felt like we were in battle together and I wanted us to, I don't know, it was just like the fights and the arguments felt more accentuated because now we were married and I took that so mentally serious. Which is just like a weird mental thing because even when we were dating or engaged, you know, you want your relationship to work out. But I think like that was a huge mental change for me was that I found myself so much more angry about things because I really, really wanted things to change and not. And a lot of times when you're fighting, you're like, oh my God, am I going to be fighting about this for the next 75 years of my life? And I don't want to and I can't. And that weighed on me heavily this year.
Yeah.
Okay, what advice would you have for somebody approaching their first year of marriage?
To be ready to be honest and open with your partner.
What if they don't know how to do that?
You have to find ways to have regular communication with your partner. I mean, there's no way to really express and understand the other person without actually talking to the other person about all these different things. I think that communication is always and will always be, a challenge, but the most important piece of a relationship.
Yeah, I think communication is like one of those like very loaded words. And I think for myself, I am not the best communicator. What I mean by that is I go through my communication process. So first I keep things internal and I think about them, I mull on them, and I'll often ignore the person that I'm mad at or be silent toward them and not communicate. And then eventually when I am ready, it will spill out in a very long, dramatic monologue where I say sometimes too much. So communication means a lot of things. It doesn't just necessarily mean talking. I think it also means fighting style, argument style. Like those are things you should learn about your partner as well. Like how do they argue? How do they fight? I mean, Adam doesn't fight. He doesn't argue. He's very, very calm. He approaches things in a very, good headspace when I bring up difficult situations. I am not really like that. And I think it's important to learn how the other person argues and deals with conflict even. I think like communication's a category, and underneath it are so many things like conflict and disagreements and arguments and tons of things like that. I don't even know how a person would practice that kind of stuff.
By telling someone how you feel.
It's hard to do though. It's really, really hard to do.
Right. I mean, but act like you're talking to your best friend sometimes.
Yeah, I know. And that's sometimes something you forget about marriage and about your relationships. If you can go back in time on the first year of marriage, what's one thing you would change?
Oh, I wish I had set goals for the first year. I mean, I sort of went into it without a plan, without we talked about, well, what did you expect? I didn't have any expectations. And I think that was a problem. I think that, I had things in my head, but they weren't anything that I had an idea of how I was going to get there. So I wish I could go back in time and really come up with a plan. And I know I need to do that for year 2, but I think it's important to really get specific and also align with your partner on said plan.
I think one thing I would do differently is at the end of 2021, we did like a year recap where we went month by month and we looked at like things we enjoyed doing and things that we didn't do and all these things, like taking an inventory. And that was really helpful to visualize like a year in your life with a person. And I really liked that. What's your favorite memory of the first year of marriage?
Sledding in Central Park with Goofy chasing us.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun in Central Park. I mean, it's always just the random adventures that pop up in our backyard.
Okay, my favorite memory of the first year of marriage is actually the secret thing that I want to talk about that I'm releasing on Instagram tomorrow and that I'm speaking about first in this podcast today. But it's a secret thing of how we celebrated the first year of marriage. Once again, very randomly, very last minute, and we didn't tell very many people about it. But since we didn't have a wedding and since we don't have any plans to have a wedding, one of the things that we did to celebrate our first year of marriage is
we renewed our vows.
So talk about how that happened.
Randomly enough, there was a restaurant, a pizza restaurant. That's a very important characteristic. And they were doing some funny little Valentine's Day special where you could get married at the pizza restaurant. They had an officiant, everything was set up, they had a photographer, or you could renew your vows. And we thought it was gonna be something different. It was gonna be a Valentine's Day, just a little extra, an extra Valentine's Day, I guess.
Shout out to Alexis for sending me that. She lives in my neighborhood and she sent me that, and Adam booked it and we went. And a part of me, like, I don't know, this thing inside of me was always saying that since we didn't have a wedding, maybe every year we'd get married again in some interesting way. And when this came about on Valentine's Day and Adam booked it, it felt right. It felt cool. And I said to Adam, let's wear the outfits we wore last year when we got married. So we wore our suits again. We ate pizza. We renewed our vows. And it was one of the most incredible moments ever, just because you say different things to each other when you make vows in the second year of marriage. And it felt even more honest and more real and more, right than the vows I think I had initially spoken the year before. So
yeah, I don't think you give yourself a chance to be vulnerable or even think about, say, rerouting your love for each other until we did that, at least.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
didn't.
I don't know. It was really a beautiful moment. And I hope that every year coming up, we can do something like this and renew our vows, whether on our anniversary or on like a random day we pick in a random situation. I sort of like these secret.
And Goofy has to be there.
Goofy has to be there. Goofy wore her wedding suit and she was a little less miserable than the year before, I think. But it was amazing. It was really cool. And it was a great way of saying like, hey, we survived the first year of marriage and here's a lot to look forward to in the year to come. So if you head to my Instagram at Jen Glantz tomorrow on Saturday, March 19th, our anniversary of our first date and of our marriage, I'm going to share some photos and some videos of that moment. We didn't have anyone come with us. We just went by ourselves and Adam actually said, just maybe don't tell anybody about it today. And that was nice. Like I didn't post about it on social media. I didn't share it with anybody. And that was really cool to sort of enjoy this moment that we had together for the past month secretly. So that is how we shared and redid our wedding from the year before. And every year, hopefully we'll do that. Any closing thoughts?
Being married is awesome.
I agree. I really do agree. It makes me happy that I am married to you. Okay, fill in the blank. You're not getting any younger, so
tell the person you love them. Even if they already know.
Who do you love?
You, Jenny. And Goofy.
Okay, Adam, where can people find you if they want to say hello?
Adam Kossoff everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, my website, and in your stories.
And in real life, too.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jenny.
Hey, you. Thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz.